According to the Journal of Management Studies, small businesses with written strategic plans grow 30% faster than their peers or competitors. If a written strategic plan makes that much of an impact on the growth of the organization, it makes a lot of sense to take the time out of your day, out of your month, out of your week, your year to create one. Today, let's talk a little bit about building a strategic plan for impact. Because just like it's important to have clear goals for your organization as a whole, it's also important to have clear goals for the impact that you want to make in order to achieve that specific impact. Impact does not happen by accidental steps. Impact takes intention, just like anything else. Where you put your focus is what is going to move forward, take shape, and create the trajectory of the organization. And in this case, the impact that you want to have. There are 4 key benefits of having a good strategic plan. The first key reason to have a strategic plan is that it aligns your organizational priorities with your vision. Ideally, your organization is still operating within the vision that it has for itself. It's working and making decisions within its mission and reason for existing. It also establishes a framework for priorities by knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to. You're aligning your organizational priorities with the vision, and then out of those priorities comes a framework for what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. It helps the organization avoid shiny object syndrome or tracing the latest trend or what peers and competitors are doing. The third thing that it does is it helps to make clear objectives for both internal and external stakeholders. You have internal stakeholders, those are your employees and the people executing on the work. And then you have external stakeholders. They may be your customers, they may be your service clients, they may be people who are making demands or requests of your organization. It helps all those people know what you're about. And then the fourth thing that having a clear strategic plan can do for you is help you tell your story better. Because as an organization, you're clear on where you're going. And so when you're asked questions about your future direction, you can say, here's our strategic plan. Here are our strategic goals. Here's where we're going as an organization. Do you want to come along and join us in this particular thing? Today, let's talk about building a plan for impact. You may be doing a strategic plan for the organization as a whole, but let's pull out that impact piece and think a bit about what it would mean to have a plan specifically for impact. There's 5 key things that you want to take a look at when you're building an impact plan, and then a 6th, which is creating action steps to get there. The first thing that you want to do is take a look at the organizational landscape as a whole. Your impact is fitting within the organization's operations and structure. You need to align your impact with what the organization is good at and what the organization's strengths are. So for example, if you're a restaurant, maybe that thing that you're thinking about having an impact around is food insecurity. Maybe if you're a tech company, your focus of impact is digital equity. If you're a nonprofit, maybe your focus of impact is helping people move out of homelessness to housing. All of those impacts could vary based on the type of organization, but any type of organization, if it chooses to work with purpose, can have an impact. So you want to align that impact with the organizational's overall structure. It helps creates alignment and clarity in the organization, and also brings some benefits to you, like a good brand reputation and awareness in the community of the work that you're doing. The second thing that you want to evaluate is your vision for this impact. What would it look like if your organization made the changes that it hoped to make in the world, in the broader world? What would society look like if this thing that you were trying to address moved forward, changed, that there were some policy changes, some community level changes? How would you know if you are successful in having this impact? That will help you determine some of the steps to take. Then the third thing, but really the most critical thing that you want to bring into your strategic plan for impact, is having the community voice inserted into the impact that you're trying to make. And the reason for this is because sometimes as an organization, you're sitting in the position of an expert in the particular area that you're in. You know what you're doing, you know the work, you know the nuances of the day-to-day work, but you don't always know how that's perceived by the people that you're trying to serve or create a product for. As an organization, may not be bringing that perspective into the work and may miss the mark as to what the barriers around that problem or issue really are. I've participated in a few market research studies recently, and in these studies, the presenters presented a plan for doing some marketing to a community based on their perceptions of what that particular community needed. I was a representative of that community, and some of their ideas were just way off base and kind of absurd, and that can happen when your work stays in the boardroom level or the executive suite level and doesn't really incorporate the perspectives around the problem that you're trying to solve. This requires, before you build the strategic plan, to actually go out and have conversations around the challenge with the people impacted by the challenge. Bring that perspective into your strategic plan. You hear what the community says it needs, and then you bring that to the table and discuss how your organization can address and solve that. The fourth thing to evaluate when creating this strategic plan is, of course, you want to take a look at what is happening externally. What are the barriers, the rest of the landscape looking like? Although you don't want to imitate what your competitors are doing or just do something for the sake of this is what everybody else is doing, so this must be what we should do. You still want to have a clear understanding of what's happening around you, what might be happening in the broader landscape economically with your competitors, emerging trends, and things that might impact the future of your success, your ability to achieve the plan, and make sure you're building some risk management strategies into that plan. Once you bring all these four elements together, the organizational landscape, the organization's vision, the community voice, and the broader barriers and challenges around the issue, then you can start putting together a 3 to 5 year plan. Where do we want to go with this impact in 5 years if we're successful? Think big and think broadly. When you're trying to have an impact, you want to create change. You don't want to create an incremental situation. You want to have big, broad change around what you're doing. So think in 5 years. You can do a lot of work in 5 years and accomplish a tremendous amount. So build out that plan from a high level. This also helps you avoid moving too much into the level of tactics. It's not uncommon for organizations to think that they have a strategic plan when really what they have is just a list of tactics around an idea that they care about. That's not quite the same as a strategy. A strategy is a big picture why. This is what we're here for, and this is where we're trying to go. And the tactics are how you get there. Many times organizations will adopt a tactic if they don't know where they're trying to go. Try something for a while, and because it doesn't fit into an overall strategy, it doesn't work as well as they hoped, and so they give up and move on. And then a couple years down the road, somebody says, we tried that before and it didn't work. A lot of times the reason that it didn't work is because it was a tactic to get towards something and not a top-down strategy. So build the 3 to 5 year plan. That's the fifth and final element of having a strategic plan. Once you have done that, then you want to go down to the next level and build those tactics, those action steps, and start breaking down those action steps into an annual plan. Let's just think about the next year and what some of the things we want to move forward are in the next year in order to have this impact. Then once you do that, break it down into quarterly goals and assign responsibilities to people to make sure that it's moving forward. Those are the basics of building a strategic plan. Drop a note in the comments to share some of your experiences with strategic planning, what's worked well and what hasn't. I'd recommend doing this as a facilitated conversation, and you can do this in two ways. You can do this either internally. You can have somebody in leadership bring the conversation together and facilitate it and just make sure it keeps it on track. Take some notes, write it down, and review it regularly within your organization, or you can bring in an external facilitator. And keep in mind that a lot of organizations do annual strategic planning and they'll bring in a facilitator. And there's a big difference between somebody that is facilitating a strategic plan and somebody that is presenting to an audience. Presentations to board and staff can be really helpful. It can provide some bigger picture information about what's happening in the world. It can provide some outside perspective that may be very much needed, but having somebody present to a team isn't quite the same as having a facilitated conversation about where your organization wants to go. You now have the basics of creating an impact plan for your organization. I want to leave you with 4 best practices when you're building the strategic plan to make sure that you're successful with what you're working to do. These 4 best practices are: 1, as I've said, make sure you review the plan regularly. Don't just have it be a document on a shelf that you never look at again after you do your December or January strategic planning. Pull it down at the beginning of every month and see where you are. Strategic plans can shift. There's a lot of unknowns that happen. But if you've truly built a strategic plan, you'll find that you want to keep working towards the elements that are in that plan, that those things are stable despite shifting circumstances. The second thing you want to do after you've written everything down is to make sure the plan is actually actionable and realistic and not just aspirational. Even though we're talking about big 3 to 5 year goals, they still need to be achievable. If you build a plan that's very far above what is realistic, that strategic plan can be discouraging, and you're not likely as an organization to commit to much of it because you realize halfway through the year that it's not a realistic plan. Make sure you have a plan that you can really use, not one that just sounds great on paper. Third, evaluate whether you have a strategy when you review the document. I talked about that just a few minutes ago, but make sure your action steps have an overarching objective that is broader. The tactics can change, but the strategy really shouldn't change too much. That's one key way that you'll know whether you have a tactic or strategy. Finally, involve all levels of the organization. It's not just people in leadership that should inform this plan. Just like community voice is important, there are many people within your organization that have perspectives about barriers and challenges in the work that need to be brought to the table. And when they are, the plans can be more effective because you have a holistic view of the organization. Build these tactics and strategies into your annual process, and you'll have a plan that helps you to achieve your impact goals. Thanks for watching. My name is Sarah Hope Marshall, founder of Profound Hope Industries. We work with mission-focused organizations to help them build strategies within their own context to make the impact they desire while growing their organization's profitability and productivity. Like and subscribe so we can continue to make more content for you.